Hey Space Coast, I'm Karina Connor with Space Coast Daily, and we are live in the Space Coast Daily studios. And today with me, I have the fraud manager for Launch Credit Union.
Hello.
Hello, welcome to the studio. I'm so happy to have you here because this is a big topic, you know.
It is.
Before we started rolling, especially since, COVID and certain things have happened, some of this stuff, the fraud has increased over time, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and a big one that we're all probably familiar with is those phone calls we get. And we get a lot of them, right?
Yes, we do.
So what exactly is spoofing, or how do you decipher what's a real phone call and what's not?
So spoofing is when there's an app on the phone. Anybody can really do it. You download this app on your phone and you can spoof literally anybody's phone number. Wow. So what's happening is that they're calling our members. We'll use a situation we had. They're calling our members. They spoof our phone number and they identify themselves as someone from the fraud department, verifying transactions.
So it looks like Launch is calling the way that they've hidden the phone number.
Correct. Okay. And so eventually it boils down to the information that they're asking our members, and it turns out that our member ends up giving them the card number, the PIN number on the back of the card. They could give them the expiration date, and what they're trying to do is get as much information as they can so that they can use the card, whether it's to do online purchases or compromise the account in some form or fashion. The biggest thing there is that when we call our members to verify transactions, which we do often, we never ask you for that information. I mean, we have the card number, we have your information. We're basically going to ask you, is this transaction a legitimate transaction? Were you traveling out of the area? Did you do the transaction? That's it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, they make it sound so real that so many people fall for it, and they're even sending them a multi-factor authentication code.
Wow.
So most important, they called the member, they have their information. Most important is you don't want to share that multi-factor authentication code. You don't want to share the card number, you don't want to share any PIN numbers, or that multi-factor authentication code. The multi-factor authentication code could be just as simple as moving the money even faster via a method of a money transfer, a Cash App, a Zelle, a Venmo.
Yeah.
So that allows them to move the money out of the account a lot quicker.
So some of the things you just absolutely will not share, you should not share with the caller would be, like you said, PIN number, card information.
Correct.
Any other things specifically?
Expiration date. You never want to give them a code that's sent to your phone. Basically, you could gain access to the full account.
Yeah.
In reality. So you're always better off just, if you feel like something just doesn't sound right, you want to hang up just say, you know what, thank you for calling. I'll reach out to my institution. Hang up the phone. Just connect, call us, and we'll be more than happy to help you. And we're never going to ask that. Yes, you can also visit the branch. One of the branches can help you. We're just never going to ask you that kind of information. I mean, we have most of that information in front of us. You know? So all we want to know is, were you traveling? Did you do the transaction or not? And it's that simple.
Exactly.
If someone's that inquisitive about your account, you really want to be a little cautious about the caller.
Yeah, hang up the phone, call
Correct.
back. Because any bank,
Yes.
anyone at your institution isn't gonna think anything of it. Sure.
Yeah.
Call me back.
Yeah, exactly. That's correct. Yeah.
I love how that's a good way to navigate.
Yeah.
And so we talked a little about the phone, and then we're in a digital world these days.
Correct.
We've got lots of emails. We get lots of different retail emails. But what are some other emails that people should be looking out for? Some popular, I guess, what do you call phishing, right?
Phishing, yeah. I can tell you that most recently I received a call yesterday saying, there's text messages that are going out that it makes it look like it's Launch Credit Union. I go, it's not us. We're not sending text messages. You can tell by the font. It's not a professional font. That was one of the first things that I saw that really brought it to light. I was like, that's not even a professional font that we would use, in the information they were asking on the text message, in the minute you hit a link, guaranteed it's going to take you into another source that's just not going to be a safe source. You're going to end up sharing all the information. Whether you intended to or not, you're going to end up sharing that information. So you always want to, again, be careful. Don't hit links if you don't know who the text message is really coming from. Pick up the phone, call your institution. Nowadays, the scammers are just thinking of more ways than what really any fraud department can stay on top of. So
So we all have to be our own fraud department,
Yes,
in a sense. We all have to
basically,
screen
yes,
our own
yes.
phone calls. And I like that. It always goes back to, too, call your institution.
Correct.
Call us, call Launch Credit Union and make sure that,
Correct.
double check. And I told you, I've gone through some of this, a lot of these
Yeah.
things, obviously the phone calls. And then I had a Norton antivirus that kept emailing me. And it's almost believable after a little while. I remember going back to my account and I was like, did they charge me for antivirus protection? You know?
I mean, I've been doing this for 7 years, and I almost fell for one of them, the Norton antivirus, and I had to sit there and think, did I order Norton antivirus? And I was like,
exactly.
Wait a minute, I have a Mac computer. I didn't order Norton antivirus. And in that email, I noticed that Norton was misspelled.
There you go.
But honestly, I almost hit the link. But then I thought, no, wait a minute. I wouldn't have, that's not mine.
Right.
So the minute you hit the link, you can allow remote access to the computer.
Wow.
So, which makes it hard for the institution to even identify that there's a different IP, right? Because they're just gaining access via remotely.
Gotcha.
So, and once they do that, it's really hard, unless you realize what's happening, to disconnect, and they can move the money out of the account really quick. So anything that seems, and I always say, a lot of these fraudsters will target you on the weekend even. Wait till Monday.
Yeah.
Wait till Monday. Call your financial institution. If your financial institution is not available Saturday and Sunday, wait till Monday. Call them on Monday.
Yep.
Don't answer any emails. Don't call the phone number on the email.
Right, and don't click the link, really.
And don't click the
You're
link.
you're safe, semi-safe, most likely if you accidentally opened it, correct? As long as you don't click it.
Right. You can open the email. Don't click any links. Don't call the phone numbers on the email.
And so when someone does call you, how do you handle, like, I'm a customer who maybe feels like they've been gone through some sort of fraudulent situation. How would you handle a caller?
So the first thing I want to identify is, where was the point of compromise, or potentially the point of compromise.
Okay.
We want to secure the account the best way possible. So the first thing I'm going to do is disable your digital banking, because typically that's where it happens.
Yeah.
If they say, well, I think they were on my computer, and so the minute I hear that, that's it. I'm going to disable your digital banking, because you want to stop any potential money movement. Okay. Then we try to identify, did you receive a phone call? Where, did you receive a phone call? Did you hit a link on the computer? Did you give them remote access? What information did you share with the caller?
Yeah.
If it was a caller, or if it was remote access, what information did you share? If they let's just say they gained remote access. We're going to always say, visit the branch. We're going to disable everything, restrict the account for your protection.
Yeah.
Visit the branch. We'll do an account number change, and then prior to doing the account number change, we always do a username and password change, right? But once we do that, we want to make sure that you get the computer cleaned of any malware.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they drop the malware on there and you have no idea it's still on there.
Sitting back
we
there.
have you change the username and password. We don't always give you the digital banking access back until you have come back and told us, I've gotten the computer cleaned, there's no malware on it, we're good to go.
Yeah.
At that point, I let you know, make sure, don't hit a link. We go through this again, just to make sure that the member is comfortable with what I'm telling them, and understands that just because you cleaned the computer doesn't mean it can't happen again, So we go through all those steps, and then we notate the account accordingly. Because we want to make sure that if the fraudster got any information, they're not calling in and trying to gain access that way.
Exactly. They may call the institution trying to be the person.
Correct.
Right?
So we notate the account accordingly, and it can vary, right?
Yeah.
There's some steps where the member feels uncomfortable, and I go, you know what? How about we just put a note on there that any caller, we're going to refer to the branch. And that way, even if you call, we're not going to give you information, So,
Yeah.
And oftentimes, because I'm the one dealing with the member, or my team is, I'll let the member know, look, if you have a question or whatever, I've dealt with you through the whole investigation. You can reach out to my extension, and I'll share the extension with them. So we'll do that.
Yeah.
But typically, we notate the account accordingly to high-risk verify all callers. So.
I mean, it's just it's there. We have a lot of tools and resources in this digital world, but that we are more susceptible to a lot. So
definitely.
But like awareness and education is key. You can be proactive and you can get around it.
Correct. Yeah.
And we've talked about a lot of I'm more the business or day to day. Whether it's a spam call or the email. But then there's a whole nother arena of scammers here, which I've heard about as well, especially post-pandemic and digital world when it's harder to meet people. There's people online dating, right? There's all these things. So there's something like a romance scam, right?
Yes.
So why don't you tell us a little about that and how that comes about and where to look for that?
Interesting thing is that COVID, I think COVID really brought a lot of these out, a lot. The sad thing about it was that they targeted people that had lost a loved one. And I mean, we're all a creature of habit, all right? We put things out on social media. We say, oh, I missed my spouse. I lost him 6 months ago. Or the dog died. I mean, anything, right? And then they get a friend request on Facebook. A lot of people don't have their settings set to private, and they get a friend request. And the friend request, all of a sudden, they go, oh, I knew your husband from many, many, many years ago. I don't know if you remember, I met you. I mean, they go into this whole long, detailed story.
Wow.
And the sad thing about it is that within a couple weeks, this person is now in love,
The person that is on the other end of this, right?
Correct.
Because they've had someone contacting them, they're starting to feel this sort of companionship, right?
Yeah. And then they're just looking forward to meeting this person, right? But here comes the question. Oh my gosh, I'm stuck. Can you help me home? Right? I'm going to send you some money. So one thing we look for is when we have individuals that are going to wire money out. You're going to wire the money out. What are we looking for is, well, in some cases, has the money been sitting, or did they receive a check they deposited and the funds were released too soon? What is our source of funds that we're going to wire out? What's the reason for the wire? Especially, the more questions you can ask of our member is where we identify the issue, because it's gotten to where the scammers are so good that they tell the individual, they'll say, when you go to the bank, don't tell them what you're sending the money for.
Wow.
Right? Just tell them that you're sending it to your brother or your sister, or tell them you're sending it to a friend, you're lending help. So we get those stories, and what happens is that the branches will call me, and then I have a conversation.
Wow.
So
I mean, and that's one thing about the local banking that's really nice. I'll say, because whether it's someone over between those ages of 50 to 80, or someone who's a widower, your local bank teller might know these things, and they might be looking out for you.
Correct. And at that point we have to make the decision: are we going to send the wire out? Are they being scammed? Because once the money goes out, the money's gone. You can't get it back. And it's all over the news. A lot of people have lost their life savings in situations like that. And
there was a big movie that came out.
Yeah,
I believe it was called the Tinder
Swindler. Yes. Welcome to my world.
And those are young people even in that situation. It's not always.
It's not always 50 to 85, 82 years old. 50 to 82 is typically the age range. And interesting story. A couple years ago, I was like, how does this happen? How do romance scams really happen? And I decided I'm going to go try this dating site just to see.
Yeah.
But I work closely with several of the agencies, law enforcement agencies, and one thing they said was, your personality is too direct, or you don't fall under that profile.
There's a profile. Strong.
Yeah, too strong, right? So I was like, well, how do I change that? Anyway, I tried it.
Yeah.
It was kind of interesting because I did end up having a scammer that approached me, and but right off the bat, it didn't work because that strong personality came out. But it's out there, and it's very. It's just interesting to see it. Interesting to speak to the people. I've had people say, "You're ruining my life. You're not sending my wire."
Oh wow. Well, because now they're in that toxic cycle, right?
They're in that toxic
cycle.
cycle.
Interesting. I mean, I told you my grandmother was big on online dating.
Yeah.
And she would almost have fun with it because she was really into grammar.
Yeah.
So she would be able to actually spot these romance scammers, but she would kind of ask them questions. She would have some fun with it. It was kind of funny, and I would say, which you shouldn't do either, right? You should really just stop this conversation.
Fun, yes, but it is fun to do that because I did try that a little bit, but I lost my patience with it. I was like, yeah, it's not for me.
Yeah.
But it happens, and it's
Wow.
unfortunate because people have lost a lot of money, you know, in this whole romance scam. And the thing is, when I encounter a potential victim, I try to identify, are they receiving funds from somebody else? You know, because it turns out that the individual they met online, they're using our member as a mule to filter money
Interesting.
through the account.
Yeah.
So it's just asking the right questions, knowing your member. You know, a lot of our tellers are really good about reaching out to me and saying, I think we have an issue, you know, and that's when I get involved.
Yeah, and you know, we didn't really talk about that we were going to touch on this, but I do have a personal experience that I think with the current economy and what's going on, rental market. So
rental
I
market.
remember it was years ago, but I was on Craigslist and I was looking for this rental, and it was like it was too good to be true. I had a feeling, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, so I knew where it was located. So I went to the house, and it was the house. It really was, you know. But they were, you know, they were trying to get me to give them a cashier's check for the deposit, or it's going to go, you know.
Right.
You gotta
deposit,
send this now. You gotta send this cashier's check
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's going to go. And it's a real house. I saw it. I found it on the
Yeah.
address. So there's a lot of that out there, too, that I think people should be aware, especially with the rental market the way it is. People putting a $1,000 3-bedroom house on Craigslist,
Yes,
you know, and people so desperate.
There's a lot of
To
that,
get-
even on home purchases. Actually, you know, they're doing that.
Yeah.
So we talk about people sending money, you know, or coming in to withdraw a large amount of money. We always ask those questions. You know, what are the funds for? What are you doing? You know, so a lot of members kind of think that we're kind of overstepping, but in reality, we're there to protect them.
Of course.
So it's really important, you know, when we're asking those questions to identify what's really going on. The rental market's huge. That's one of them. The job market. There's even
I've
jobs
heard of
on
that too
LinkedIn.
from friends. Yep.
If it's a job that's so real to be true, I mean, we kind of joke about it in the department. I'm like, I think I'm going to go work there. You know, it's
Yeah,
just,
you're $100,000 off the gate,
exactly.
You know.
Or I'm going to send you this money. Buy yourself a computer. Buy yourself a desk. But send me back part of that check, right?
Oh, wow, there's
Yeah,
the meal part
yeah,
again. Interesting.
yeah.
And then
So-
on the job application, there's a lot of personal questions such as your social, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Even when you're applying for these jobs and you're giving them all that information, they're asking you for your digital login because they're going to deposit money. So then what you end up seeing is a mobile deposit,
Wow.
which turns out that the check's fraud. And unfortunately, a lot of our young adults get caught up in that because it's summer. They're looking for jobs.
Yeah.
Maybe they're away at college. They're on a limited budget, and they're looking for jobs. So they end up sharing all this information, and before you know it, there's a fraudulent check. Or the latest thing is that they're emailing a copy of a check, and they tell the individual, just take a picture of the check. Take a picture of the front of the check, take a picture of the back of the check, and deposit it in your account.
Interesting.
You know?
So what is some of the information then that is okay to give away, and some information you should not until maybe you're actually in front of that employer?
Honestly, I don't recommend giving anything away. If you're going
Wow.
to do an online job like that, you got to really think, is it too good to be true?
Okay.
I mean, I'm 18 years old, I'm going to get paid $3,500 a week. Does that make sense, right? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
You don't want to share any information.
Okay.
And to me, in my opinion, I feel like they target the young adults because it's money. They see fast money, and they're going, okay, you know, this is a great job. I'm going to apply. What do you need? Let me give you everything you need.
Right.
And when we catch these, we go into a long conversation with our young adults just to explain it to them. You know, it can affect your bank account. It can affect, you know, if you can't pay us back, it can affect you go into collections. You know, I mean, we go through this whole series of questions with them, and we talk to them. The sad thing is that some kids are joint on there with their parents, let's say.
Oh, wow.
And then the parent, you know, is upset because it fell into the young adult's hands, this job opportunity, which really wasn't real. And again, it goes back to, is it too good to be true?
Yeah.
If something seems too good to be true, then
In
don't
all
bother.
aspects we've talked about,
In
right?
all
The job,
aspects,
the
the job,
romance,
correct.
the rental. I
the
mean,
rental, everything.
Yeah.
Especially in today's market when everything is so expensive anyway. You know, Do you really believe that someone's going to pay you that much money, you know? Or do you really think you can rent a room for $400? Or do you really think you know that it's a whole bunch. I mean, it's so much out there.
So be aware and
Be
be
aware,
mindful, right?
Yes.
And then finally, if someone has had remote access, going back to that, if someone did click the link, we've talked about this a little bit. There is a way to get out of that, right?
The quickest thing you can do, and I had a situation, and had it not been for the individual's wife shutting the computer and disconnecting that connection, they would have moved out quite a bit of money.
Wow.
Because the money moves quick, you know. And they made it look like it was a refund. They literally moved money from the savings to the checking and made it look like a refund, like a Norton antivirus refund that was, they over refunded by thousands of dollars. So then they said, well, you owe us that money. We gave you too much of a refund. Well, the way the screen looks is though they don't show both the savings and checking. They only show the checking, which shows this huge refund because it says Amazon refund or Norton antivirus refund, when in reality it's your own money that just got moved from your savings to checking or checking to save, one of the two. You know, so they're playing with your own money and making it look as though they gave you too much of a refund. So again, you want to disconnect the connection and immediately visit one of the branches or give us a call so that we can secure the account until you can make it to the branch, and we can do an account number change, and we can help you safeguard the account.
Yeah. So. And if you're ever uneasy, or if you have any sort of intuition or any sort of maybe this isn't right,
call us.
Call them. Call
I
you.
always
hang up, disconnect, call, wait till Monday, all of these things.
Yes,
you guys at Launch Credit Union have a department set up for this for your members.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, we do. Yep. And we tell them, just call us. You know, we'll help you safeguard it. And then if you're, let's just say you're a victim of identity theft, we even give you some other pointers, you know, where you can safeguard your identity. Because let's just say that you're a victim of identity theft and they didn't really get very far here with us because we were able to stop it. Well, 6 months later, 8 months later, your information is going to get used, whether it's to apply for a loan somewhere else or open an account somewhere else or some form of fraudulent activity somewhere else.
So always make sure you're in the clear.
Or
if something has possibly happened, look into it.
And you always want to share as much information that you may have given to the potential fraudster or scammer on the phone with us. So that helps us also make sure that the account, one, is protected, that we're helping you protect your credit profile, you know, because we'll even tell you to go out there and put a freeze on your credit. You know, a lot of times the fraudsters like to target our, you know, that there's, I call it that happy spot of a 700 plus credit score in the 800s, because a lot of times, you know, you can get things approved really easy, you know, less questions, let's say. You just want to be careful.
Well, I feel like we could talk on this. We could go on and on this topic.
I
have all sorts of other things that are going through my head. So maybe we'll get together again.
Definitely.
And we'll talk more about it. But for now, thank you so much for joining us here in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Launch Credit Union is a great institution, it seems, that's there for its members. You've been with them a while now?
I've been with them going on 3 years.
Wow, wonderful.
So I love it. It's a great company to work for, and, you know.
Good.
I get to do my job, and I love what I do.
Everyone out there, Space Coast, stay safe, stay aware, and have a great day.